This is a dream from July 2022 about a neglected Eucharist and Child Jesus in the family. It all began with the consecrated host. It looked so vivid as I was witnessing it, I really thought, this is actually happening in real life? I gazed at the monstrance which was on my bed before me. This was in the dream, and noticed the host had a yellow wax-like color, not its usual color, and a few perfect round holes no bigger than the size of the nail on your little finger. The holes were in diverse places, mostly at the edges, seemingly as if eaten or bitten by a bug. But the next instant the holes were not seen anymore. Instead, red spots were all over the consecrated host. It was blood. Within the blink of an eye, the blood spots were now in diverse places on the consecrated host. It was a very bloody consecrated host. Within a second I realized while gazing at the dark, red, black, and blue spots, Lord, this is your body. It's your back. Now is seen a clear image of Jesus' back on the consecrated host, marred with wounds and bleeding just like at the pillar. In the next second, I see Jesus' whole body. This was still coming from the consecrated host, but this time the image did not constrain itself within the borders of the host. I just saw his whole wounded body before me. He had his hands bound, wearing the crown of thorns, with no clothes on except his bloody underwear. The massive wounds on his body moved from one place to another, moving across his whole body as a typhoon seen from space in movement. Wounds were always on him, coming and going, swirling swiftly around his body, as he was still and bound with head down. As I sat on my bed with my laptop before me, the image I saw of the wounded Jesus, it manifested now as a small statue sitting at the edge of my bed. No bigger than the size of a medium bottle of water, the little statue moved its wounded arms, reaching a hand toward me. The statue is moving? I realized, stunned. However, on the next second, it was no longer a statue, but a living, breathing, flesh and bone, normal-sized toddler, about 2 or 3 years old, if not mistaken. At first it reminded me of my niece, since the toddler also had curly hair and blue eyes, but I soon perceived it had its own features. It was a boy. The child moved around near my bed in such a calm demeanor, engaging and moving around like a child. My eyes followed, and I see myself asking the little one, Lord, are you sad that I do not spend that much time with you? I asked the little one in a gentle tone as you would ask a 2 or 3 years old kid. I sensed in that dream that I somehow did not spend much time with him as usual. The child Jesus affirmed in such a childlike tone, seemingly sad for the absence. Our conversation was not clear at the point, even though I saw him before my eyes so clearly. I had to go around and ask some questions to understand him. Eventually I understood him to first spend time with him, and then go and tend to family or other things. The little one only said a sentence. Above all, be the temple of God, he said. The temple of God? My mind wanted to ask him in a rush how to be a temple of God, but I restrained this question, trusting in an instant that the Holy Spirit will teach me this at the moment, as it comes day by day. I said to little Jesus instead, Thank you for being here with us in this house, Lord. I just thanked him among my words, hoping he likes to be in this family. Little Jesus turned his gaze toward me in such excitement and a wide toddler smile. It seemed an explosion of joy was about to burst off from him. He was enjoying being around us more than I knew. Right then, still in the dream, I realized I remembered how Mother Elisha said during one of our conversations that the Lord enjoys being with us in this family, my family, in this house. The little Lord's smile and happy eyes made it clear and showed it to be so. He was more excited to be around us than I imagined. A few moments later, I saw myself presenting 2 canvas paintings to someone. One had 3 people in it, 2 relatives of mine and the image of our Mother of Mercy, the one with the earth, in the middle of them. The second one was in blue tones. It contained big silver numbers in the middle, namely 0044. It reminded me of water or rain since it had a few big dewdrops on it. I will let you know about this a little bit later. Now the little Lord stands beside the bed wearing a dark blue vesture with seemingly large sleeves, a robe like a little boy's Japanese kimono, just for you to have an idea of it. He was holding a candle in his right hand and an empty vase, for oil I think, in his left hand, with the intention of about to bless us. From behind him, coming from the hall, the corridor, was an auntie of mine. She scooped down all jiggly and happy at the little Jesus, speaking to him so openly and freely, with gentle affection and boldness at his being and cuteness. Little Jesus, still in a calm, peaceful attitude, smiled, hilarious at her, but did not speak. He just smiled and somehow retreated a little bit from her touch, as if shy. Can't say for sure why. My mom is in the hall also, and looking inside my room, the little Lord was now a teenager, still in that blue robe, fit for his body size. On one instant he was a toddler, on the next he is a teenager close to maturity. To my mom's asking who was this youth, I mouthed to her, Jesus, which means Jesus in our language. I was all happy for him being with us and engaging. Our teenager Lord, his hair had a light brown color. It did not go beyond his shoulders, rather it rested on his neck and partially covered his ears. It seemed not so wavy or curly as child Jesus was a moment ago. This time his hairstyle looked slightly slim, with some faint waves at the end resting on his neck. His countenance gave you joy and peace. Not saying much, but smiling often, speaking only when needed and allowing the rest to come off his face. You could look at him and find joy about him being in this house, literally. Teenager Jesus was not still. He was preparing something as he moved around the room. He was about truly as one of the family. After telling my mom who he was, Jesus was no longer there the next second. He went somewhere. To their asking, I reply, he is in the car. Wait a little bit and he will come to give us the blessing he intended, I explained, though frankly a bit frustrated that he was taking a long while to come back from the car. But whatever he was doing in that car, he was taking his time for a good reason. I sensed he was tending to someone, taking his time for them. The final scene I saw before my eyes is Jesus' wounded body again, but not in the consecrated host. The images I see now were taken from the consecrated host indeed, but are now sketched on a paper, a sequence of them, of Jesus' wounded body. But what drew more attention was the last one. The Lord and I were on the surface of still waters. He no longer had wounds on himself. He turned to the left, pointing to the sky, mentioning without words, "There is a storm coming." I saw this drawing moving, as if an animated photo, in this case, an animated outline sketch. I recall another scene during the dream. I saw the monstrance broken in half, destroyed to the side. I held the consecrated host in my open hand, emotional and almost tearing up. The host was beginning to bleed, forming a round spot in the middle of it, as I held it in a white covering or napkin, tainting it with his blood. And that was the end of the dream. Now to go to the symbolic language used in the dream. The holes in the consecrated host and the swirling wounds on his body. This gives the understanding that all throughout time he receives wound from mankind non-stop, coming and going like a mad storm. The Lord will let you know more about this in the message after this. The broken monstrance and the host beginning to bleed in my hand. This gave the understanding of him being so neglected in the sacrament, tossed to the side. The little child around my room and in my home is how he loves to be inside our house, our homes. He, the Eucharistic Christ, real present Jesus, a part of the family. When he made it known that I didn't spend much time with him, it is so that his body, the church, is not spending quality time with him anymore as they used to, and little Jesus felt hurt and neglected. Now the paintings. Beginning with the number 0044, initially thinking that they meant 15 minutes until midnight. It is 00 in Europe time, which means midnight. But it's past midnight, so it can't be that. During one group call from our Mother Superior, it dawned on me, it's a countdown. And the time was stopped at 44 seconds. I asked the Lord about this in the Bible promises and he confirmed it. The big dewdrops in the painting near the numbers are understood as dewdrops from heaven, graces, mercies. The second painting of our Mother of Mercy and some relatives of mine which led a close relationship to God and the Blessed Mother. You can say they represent the devout people. So the Blessed Mother, the devout people, a countdown stopped at 44 seconds. And number 4 also is usually defined as Mother Mary's number. I asked the Lord about this, and this too, he confirmed. So therefore the Blessed Mother and the devout people, praying, stopped the countdown to allow a few more dewdrops of mercy and grace to befall on mankind, on earth. The color blue for me means heaven. No wonder it appears so often in this dream, marking it as from heaven. Jesus switching from toddler to teenager can be defined as his relationship towards you. On one instant he is a little child, and the next he is a teenager near his bride-to-be. Because he appears to be as a teenager only when my mom appeared. He knows why. And the Lord being in the car, delaying for a while and taking his time with a soul down there while we waited. He was not hurrying. Yes, he was aware we were waiting, but took great care to do the best he can to help that soul. I sensed it so in my soul and spirit, despite not seeing what he was doing down there. The candle and the empty little bottle meant for anointing oil, if not mistaken, he was about to bless and fill. So this was the dream I received in July 2022. And next follows the message which Jesus gave me after this.